What's up, everybody? Today we're going to be doing a classic interviewing question. We're going to be reversing a linked list, so let's get right into it. Alright, so what I have here is given a reference to the head node, which is just like the start of the list, we need to reverse the linked list. And that doesn't mean like just return a new list that is the list that you're given backwards. It means change all the references in the given list. So you kind of have to do it in place, and that's what makes this tricky. And so this list is the list 1, 2, 3, and then this just represents null. Alright, so we know that with most linked list questions, what we're going to need to do is create a reference to the head node, and so that's exactly what we're about to do. I'll just say cur, and that'll point to the head, and so we need to say that cur points to nothing, because that's what it's going to need to look like in the resulting list. So let's think about what would happen if we just said cur.next is null. And it would look something like that. But then we see that we'll essentially lose the 2, 3 list, because this gets lost and Java will delete it because there's nothing referencing it. So we know that we need to save this reference to the 2. And so I'll just say next and have that pointing to the 2. Alright, so let's continue. I'll make cur point to null. Alright, now that we've got that, let's move cur up the list. Alright, so cur and next are both pointing to the 2. So let's try to do the same thing we just did. We move next to be the node directly after the current node. And so now let's make cur point to 1. But we can't, because once again we lost our reference to this 1, and so it's just gone. We lose because we're not referencing it. It gets deleted by Java, and so it's useless to us. So let's go back. Basically, we're going to have another variable called prev that points to the previous list node, or we can think of it as the head of the reversed list that we're about to return. And so let's walk through the problem knowing this. So we'll say next is equal to 2, just like we did before, and then we can make cur point to null. And then we're going to say prev is equal to cur. And basically that'll just hold this reference to the 1. And then we move cur up with next. And now, when we go to continue reversing, what we'll do is we'll say next is equal to cur.next. So that moves it up to the next list node. And then cur.next is equal to prev. And so that'll basically flip that reference to be pointing to the previous node. And then prev is going to become cur, or it'll point to the same thing as cur. And then cur needs to get moved to the next list node, and so we'll say cur is equal to next. And so both next and cur are pointing to the same node, and so now we have one list that goes 2, 1, and one list that goes 3, and then null. And so now we're going to continue one more time, and we're going to say next is equal to cur.next. So next gets pointed to null, and then cur.next is equal to prev. So that'll flip this arrow like so, and then after that we say prev is equal to cur, and so prev points to the same thing as cur, and now cur is equal to next. Alright, so now next and cur both point to null, and so we're done. And in the end, all we need to do is return prev. And so this would be our new list, and it would go 3, 2, 1, which is exactly 1, 2, 3 reversed. So let's start coding it. Alright, so I've got the question pulled up. The first thing that we're going to do is, just like when we were writing it out, is make those 3 variables. So we're going to say list node prev, and if we think about it, the prev to the start of a list should be null. So make a null, and then we can say list node cur is going to be equal to head, and the same for next. Cool, and now let's do our while loop. And so if we remember when we were drawing it, we basically went until cur was not past the end of the list, which means we need to go until while cur does not equal null. And so while cur not equal to null, then if we remember, we need to basically move next up to the next list node. And so I'll say next equal cur.next. And then we need to make cur point to the previous list node. So cur.next. So cur.next equal to prev. Cool. And now we can say prev is equal to cur to make sure that we don't lose the reference to the head of the list that we are going to return. And now we say cur equal to next. And that'll keep moving cur up the list. If we didn't have this, the while loop would go on forever, and we definitely don't want that. And so, yeah. And now, what should we return? So if we remember back to when we drew it out, we said that prev is going to be the head of the list that is going to be reversed. And so we're going to return prev. All right, let's see how this works. Oh, and I forgot my semicolon. It's classic. All right. So we got a 0 millisecond solution, which is pretty good. Now let's talk about the time complexity. All right, so let's look at our while loop. While cur is not null, we're going to be doing something, and basically we're swapping around some references, so that's constant time. And then we say cur is equal to next, which is just going to be the next list node. And so cur is going to end up going to each list node, and so it's going to have an O of n time complexity. And as for our memory complexity, if we look, all we're doing is making a couple references to list nodes. We're not making any huge data structures or anything like that. And so we're going to say this has a constant memory complexity. All right, and so that's how you do the reverse linked list question on LeetCode. It's kind of a meme just because it's so popular and commonly asked. But as always, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, it'd mean a lot to me if you liked, subscribed, and as always, have a great day. See ya.